Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. Malaysian Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim arrived in India on a 3-day visit to hold bilateral discussions with Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. India and Japan to hold third 2+2 dialogue in New Delhi on Tuesday. Japanese Foreign and Defence Ministers call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi ahead of the ministerial meeting. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Israel has accepted Gaza ceasefire bridging proposal, urges Hamas to do the same. The Democratic National Convention kicks off in Chicago. Party to formally nominate Kamala Harris as the Democrat candidate for presidential polls. Day one highlight will be Biden's bitter speech, farewell speech. Malaysia's Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim has arrived in New Delhi on a 3-day visit to India. Now, this is his first visit to the country as the Prime Minister of Malaysia. Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim will hold bilateral discussions with Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. During his visit, he will also meet President Draupadi Murmu and External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Bilateral relationship between the two nations was elevated to the status of enhanced strategic partnership in 2015 during the visit of Prime Minister Modi to Malaysia. The visit of Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim will pave the way for further strengthening of India-Malaysia bilateral ties by charting out a multi-sectoral cooperation agenda for the future. Arun Sharma joins us on phone line from New Delhi. Arun, good morning. Now, we've given a broad outline of what is to be expected from the Malaysian Prime Minister's visit, 3-day visit to India. You spell out more details, what all will be taken up on the agenda as part of the agenda when the two leaders will meet today.
Good morning, Preeti. Well, the focus of this visit is, of course, on strengthening the bilateral ties. The visit aims to strengthen the bilateral relation between India and Malaysia. And, of course, the key component of this visit is going to be the economic cooperation. Now, we know this fact, Preeti, that Malaysia is India's third largest trading partner in ASEAN. And the visit also aims to boost trade and investment. Now, yesterday only, the Malaysian High Commissioner to India has said that, several MOUs in the field of digital, tourism, health, pharmaceuticals, the Ayurvedic medicine, and, of course, the foreign workers. These are likely to be, announced as far as the cooperation in these areas are concerned. So, of course, this focus is on the economic cooperation that is going to be the key component of the visit. Now, we know this fact, Preeti, that there are close to 150 Indian companies and establishments that are based in Malaysia, and as far as the Malaysian companies are concerned, there are close to 70 Malaysian companies that are already operating in India. The focus of both India and Malaysia are to increase this economic activity and investment as well. Now, the trade target, now both the countries are targeting to enhance their trade or investment from current $20 billion to $25 billion next year. And as far as the sectors like information technology, that means IT and pharmaceuticals are concerned, that is going to be the key area. Now, also the second key component is likely on the Indo-Pacific. That means how to strengthen the, how to enhance the maritime securities, defense cooperation, because India and Malaysia are very much likely to discuss the defense cooperation, including the joint exercises and defense production. Now, we should not forget this fact that India is aiming to become Atmanirbhar or self-reliant as far as defense equipments are concerned. So how can it become the major exporter in this region? So yes, the focus is likely on the defense production as well. Now, yes, we know this fact, Preeti, that both India and Malaysia are partners in various multilateral institutions like ASEAN, G20 for that matter, WTO for that matter. And, both have condemned the terrorism, in the strongest possible voice. And, of course, the two nations are likely to discuss on ways to enhance the cooperation in the counter-terrorism efforts. So yes, it's going to be a significant visit where the focus will be on, of course, the economic component. And of course, the Indo-Pacific is also likely to dominate as far as the visit is concerned. Preeti?
Right, so that was about what all is to be taken up, during the talks today between the two leaders, Arun. But over the years, how has the relationship between India and Malaysia evolved? Because you tell us that both the countries are crucial to each other for their growth and prosperity. Also, I want you to explain to us to what extent does Malaysia play a role in India's, Act East policy. Added to that, get us more as to how has the relationship between the two countries evolved over the years.
Well, see, so Preeti, now people-to-people connect binds both India and Malaysia. Now, there is a strong diaspora of 2.9 million people, the Indian diaspora. And this is the third largest Indian diaspora in Malaysia. So this says a lot about the India-Malaysia connect. Secondly, we have a strong cultural, linkages as far as India and Malaysia are concerned. And both the governments over the past many years have promoted the cultural ties via various activities. Also, focus is on the human resources or the skilled development. And we have seen that various training programs have been, announced over the last many years so that the skilled manpower, skill enhancements can be done. Now, we know this fact that an Indian cultural center under the ICCR was also established earlier. Now, various vocal, Kathak dances, yoga, Hindi language, the promotion language, Sanskrit language is being done. So, yes, the idea is how to, enhance these cultural linkages and cultural ties going forward. Now, as far as the tourism is concerned, this is going to be very much significant. Now, over the past many years, we have seen, we know this fact is that India is the fifth largest source country for the inbound tourism for Malaysia. Now, that means the number of tourist arrival that is happening in Malaysia is the fifth largest. And, of course, the government of Malaysia has also announced the visa-free travel for Indian nationals. But it was done till 2024 to promote the inbound tourism. Now, same, the gratis 30-day double entry tourist visa has been announced by the Indian side as well to promote the two-side tourism. So, yes, the tourism, cultural linkages, enhancing skilled manpower, all these things bind together. That means the soul of this or the binding force between India and Malaysia has been the people-to-people connect. And when we talk about today's visit, of course, the focus is likely on promoting the sectors like IT. India is also likely to highlight its soft power, that is yoga and Ayurvedic medicine, as far as this visit is concerned. And as the High Commissioner of Malaysia to India has already mentioned this point, that the cooperation or MOUs related to yoga, Ayurvedic medicine is likely to be signed. So these are all important components that are likely to come up. And of course, the cultural linkages, people-to-people connect plays an important role historically as far as, enhancing or giving a boost to India-Malaysia ties.
All right, Arun, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. All right, so that was about the visiting dignitaries' three-day visit to India. We'll keep you updated as the bilateral talks begin today during the day. Let's turn focus to other updates. India and Japan will hold a 2+2 ministerial dialogue in New Delhi on Tuesday. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar and their counterparts will take part in the meeting. Ahead of the third India-Japan 2+2 foreign and defence ministerial meeting, Japanese Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa and Defence Minister Minoru Kihara met with India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi in New Delhi. The leaders reviewed the progress in India-Japan defence and security ties and reaffirmed the important role of their partnership in promoting peace, stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific region and beyond. As efforts continue for a Gaza peace truce, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has said that Israel has accepted its bridging proposal, urging Hamas also to do the same. The top U.S. diplomat met Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Tel Aviv on Monday and described his talks with him as positive, adding that Netanyahu had committed to sending his negotiating team back to Doha and Egypt for a new round of talks to try to complete the ceasefire agreement. Blinken will also travel to Cairo, where ceasefire talks are expected to resume this week.
In a very constructive meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu, he confirmed to me that Israel accepts the bridging proposal, that he supports it. It's now incumbent on Hamas to do the same. And then the parties, with the help of the mediators, the United States, Egypt, and Qatar, have to come together and complete the process of reaching clear understandings about how they'll implement the commitments.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is continuing his tour of the West Asia, trying to get a ceasefire and hostage deal into play, one that's being seen as a last-ditch attempt after months of failed negotiations. America's top diplomat is now in Cairo for talks after holding high-level meetings in Israel on Monday. DD India's Sarah Coates has more from Tel Aviv.
Certainly a lot of hope, but not a lot of optimism as these key negotiators go into this next round of talks in Cairo. Well, on Monday, the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, he made his 9th wartime visit to Israel, meeting with a number of high-level figures, including the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who assured him that he is on board with the deal, with his office putting out a statement saying that their 3-hour-long meeting was held in positive spirits. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu has agreed to send his top-tier negotiating team to Cairo to really try and finalise this deal, with Blinken warning that it could be the last chance to get these remaining Israeli hostages out. So certainly intensive diplomacy happening on the ground as these world powers really try and avert a wider scale war amid these threats from both Hezbollah and also Iran to retaliate against Israel, to hit Israel, blaming it for the assassination of not just Fuad Shakur, that second in charge of Hezbollah, which Israel has claimed, but also the head of Hamas's Politburo, Ismail Haniyeh, in Tehran, which Israel has stayed very tight-lipped on. Meanwhile, the Shin Bet and Israeli police are urging people here in Tel Aviv to be on high alert and to notify authorities if they see anything suspicious after a bomb blast here in the city last night, with police saying that this was a man that came in from the West Bank illegally. He was in his 50s. He was reportedly found with explosives strapped to him. Normally, this is a fairly busy area where this blast took place, but thankfully, given the time and also the day it was, on a Sunday, only one person was moderately injured and is being treated in hospital. But in saying that, the attack has been claimed by both Palestinian Islamic Jihad and by Hamas, with Hamas putting out a statement saying the brigades confirm that martyrdom operations inside the occupied territories will return to the forefront as long as the occupation's massacres, the displacement of civilians, and the policy of assassinations continue. Reporting from Tel Aviv, I'm Sarah Coates for DD India.
Democratic National Convention kicked off in Chicago, Illinois on Monday, with U.S. President Joe Biden expected to urge his fellow Democrats to unite behind Vice President Kamala Harris in the fight for White House. Biden's appearance to start the 4-day National Democratic Convention will serve as a symbolic passing of the torch to Harris after he quit the race under pressure from top Democrats worried that the 81-year-old incumbent was too old to win or serve another 4 years. Earlier, polls showed Trump with a clear lead over Biden, but Harris has closed the gap both nationally and in many parts of the highly competitive states, including Pennsylvania. The first day of the Democratic National Convention featured a surprise appearance by Vice President Kamala Harris. In her brief remarks, she also thanked President Joe Biden for his historic leadership and lifetime of service to our nation.
I want to kick us off by celebrating our incredible President Joe Biden, who will be speaking later tonight. Joe, thank you for your historic leadership, for your lifetime of service to our nation, and for all you will continue to do. We are forever grateful to you.
All right, in a while from now, U.S. President Joe Biden will give his farewell speech at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. He said that he is ready to pass the torch of the election to the presidential nominee, Kamala Harris. Joe Biden's farewell speech is expected to be a snapshot on his contributions as President of the United States and his achievements during his long political career, which witnessed his remarkable climb from a party worker to vice president and to the White House. Joe Biden reached the convention venue to do a sound check from the stage, where he will give his final address to the party. Indeed, the speech will be one of the toughest moments in his political career, as he had to step aside and make way for Kamala Harris as the presidential candidate. However, keeping his cool and smile intact on the face, Biden was moving around the podium, meeting and interacting with the organizers and workers of his party. When asked, is he ready to pass the torch to Kamala Harris, he said yes, he was ready.
Excited to be here tonight.
How are you feeling?
Are you ready to pass the torch? Yes, sir. I am.
Meanwhile, 4 people were arrested after breaching the outer security fence of the Democratic Convention in Chicago. Police said that a small group of around 100 demonstrators broke off from a larger march involving thousands of people and targeted the metal barrier surrounding the United Center on the first day of the party gathering. Protest groups have called for mass demonstrations throughout the week against Biden-Harris administration. All right, DD India's Benji Hire joins us live for more on the story from Washington. Benji, good morning. Now, Democratic National Convention has kicked off in Chicago, but get us more on the convention. We tell our viewers that Kamala Harris made a surprise visit. She appreciated and was grateful to President Biden for his leadership and his service to the country. Get us more highlights of her address and also get us more on the convention as well.
Well, it was a short appearance by the Vice President, who will make her main speech on Thursday, but she was met with a euphoric crowd at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, an event in which she will accept the nomination to top the ticket for the party and take on Donald Trump in November. In her brief remarks, she said that she's forever grateful to President Joe Biden for his lifetime of service, but also noted that, quote, "We are moving forward with optimism and hope." And I think ultimately this is the theme, the tone that we are seeing unfold, not just tonight in Chicago, but going forward for the remainder of the week during this convention, which is starting shortly with the speech of President Joe Biden, who will, I'm sure, speak to his legacy, I'm sure speak to his achievements, but will also frame this as a passing of the baton to that new generation, Kamala Harris included, who can breach that glass ceiling and win in November. Ultimately, his legacy, though, Joe Biden's, will be guided enormously as to by whether Kamala Harris can indeed beat the former president. I would expect the current president to get a resounding ovation from those that are attending the convention, delegates who would have voted for him to become president had he not stepped aside. But of course, he is still also addressing those in the room who were at the heart of the maneuverings to try to get him to make way for Kamala Harris. Mrs. Harris will be attending. She has been there throughout the night. She'll be watching Joe Biden's speech, but the president himself will be long gone by the time Kamala Harris addresses the crowd on Thursday. This, I think, also is something worth noting very briefly, which is this is now a united party. We have seen speakers tonight which include Hillary Clinton, the former candidate in 2016, wife of former President Bill Clinton, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, a more progressive lawmaker, all now rallying behind the nominee, the vice president, who they see as their best chance to defeat Donald Trump.
All right, so that was about the convention, but then we also tell our viewers that the speech of Biden would focus on him on his tenure as the president of the United States. When we talk of the journey of President Biden, he has in fact had a long one, from being a worker to being the vice president of the country at one point and now leading the nation as the president. Let us get more from you. What kind of a legacy does he leave behind?
Look, it was a long and illustrious career, and I'm sure many Democrats will feel thankful that he capped it by becoming president and therefore becoming the only president, so far at least, to defeat Donald Trump at the ballot box. There will be an opportunity, no doubt, when he takes to the stage shortly to reflect on that, to reflect on his accomplishments and consistently brand Donald Trump, as he has done, as a danger to democracy. But that message of fear of the opponent has been replaced now with optimism and hope. And that is the resounding sentiment, and that is the resounding rhetoric. So I think ultimately, even if he is greeted, and he will be, by cheers and euphoria, every cheer, every fist raised will ultimately be a celebration, I think, of him and his legacy, but also his decision to not decide to go for a second term and to pass on to Kamala Harris. It will communicate reverence, I'm sure, but relief as well. And Joe Biden will know that when he takes to the stage during what will be, I'm sure, an emotional address. When he does take to the stage, of course, because we are running very late with proceedings at the convention. So he's going well beyond prime time here in the US. Some people may very well still stay up to watch him address this raucous crowd in Chicago.
Benji, a quick last word on how is the presidential race progressing? Because we tell our viewers that with the entry of Kamala Harris as the presidential nominee, prospective presidential nominee, things have turned around with respect to the support which Donald Trump was enjoying before Kamala Harris's entry as the prospective presidential nominee. How do you see the presidential race progress from here on?
I'd say that her entry into this contest has changed the game, but it's still too close to call. The vice president had enormous momentum. We've seen that translate from online memes into real on-the-ground support from the coalition of voters who backed Biden in 2020. People of color, women, anti-Trump Republicans, and especially the youth. But she will need to garner an even wider coalition of white working class Americans from rural America who lended their support towards Donald Trump of late. Now, her choice of a running mate in Tim Walz, the Minnesota governor, may go some way to encourage those voters on side. But a real test will be on the policy front. How well she can sell her vision of America, her values on the fronts of economy and immigration, rather than just rely on virality and vibes alone. It will also, I'm sure, depend on how Donald Trump's campaign will tackle Kamala Harris, where they will continue with their falsities, their falsehoods, their deceit, and their branding of her as a threat, attacking her personality, her race, her background, or whether they hone in on those very policies where there are holes and there are weaknesses in Kamala Harris's CV.
All right, Benji, we leave it here. Thank you for joining in with those details. Meanwhile, U.S. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump on Monday said that if elected, he would tap Elon Musk for a cabinet or advisory role if he would do it. Trump also said that he would consider ending a $7,500 tax credit for electric vehicle purchases, calling it ridiculous.
I would. He's very smart. I had a great talk with him the other day, as you know. Went on for 2.5 hours almost, and perhaps you listened, but he's a very smart guy. I certainly would. If he would do it, I certainly would. He's a brilliant guy.
You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, the Russia-Ukraine war continues with no respite in sight as both sides unabatedly exchange fire in the border areas. First doses of Mpox vaccine expected to reach Democratic Republic of Congo by the next week, even as the nation copes with rising cases of the disease.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you more international updates. The Russian and Ukrainian forces continued to exchange fire on Sunday as their war of attrition went on. Kursk incursion is going on, and Moscow says Ukraine has struck and damaged a third bridge in the Kursk region. Russia also said its Marines captured a group of 19 Ukrainian soldiers in the region. Dasha Chernysheва gets us more from Moscow.
Russia says after Ukraine's incursion of the Kursk region, there can be no negotiations with Kiev. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also said on Monday that the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky was instructed by the US to attack Russia and to seek to create a buffer zone in the Kursk region, as Zelensky described it. Lavrov also said that Kiev itself would not have dared to do that. In the meantime, Russian Minister of Defense says it continues to attack the Ukrainian armed forces in the Kursk region and within Ukraine's borders. In the meantime, Russia's Emergencies Ministry said on Monday that more than 120,000 people have been evacuated from 9 border districts of Russia's Kursk region. In the Belgorod region, the authorities limited the entry to 5 more settlements and promised to provide local residents with compensation for lost housing without additional expertise and administrative procedures. Russian media quoted the office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, saying it was ready to send a group of international experts to the Kursk region. In Donbas, Russian forces say they have improved their positions in a number of areas and took control over the village of Artemova, describing it as one of the area's major population centers. Dasha Cherneshova in Moscow, reported for DD India.
Ukraine's cross-border incursion into Russia has passed its 2-week mark and troops are continuing to gain ground. Ukrainian President Zelensky says Kyiv is achieving its goals. Meanwhile, Russian forces are advancing in Ukraine's east and people are fleeing the city of Pokrovsk. DD India's Megumi Lim gets us more from Kyiv.
President Zelensky said on Monday Ukrainian forces were capturing more Russian soldiers in the Kursk region and replenishing what he called the country's exchange fund. The aim for their capture is to get Ukrainian prisoners of war back home through future prisoner swaps with Russia. Now, Zelensky's comments came after, for the first time on Sunday, he clearly stated Kyiv's aim for the Kursk operation: to create a buffer zone and prevent Russia from attacking Ukraine's border regions. He said Ukraine's primary task was to destroy as much of Russia's war potential as possible and to conduct maximum counteroffensive actions. On Monday, Russia claimed Ukrainian forces had struck a third bridge over the same river in the Kursk region. 2 other bridges were destroyed last week over the same river, according to Russia and the Ukrainian Air Force. Ukraine says the attacks on these bridges will hamper Russia's ability to supply troops fighting against the incursion. But Russian military bloggers say the impact will not be significant because Russian troops have built pontoon bridges to use as supply lines. Now, according to Deep State and open source analytics group, Ukrainian troops captured 2 more settlements in the Kursk region on Sunday, adding to the more than 80 settlements currently under Ukrainian control. Meanwhile, Russian forces are advancing in Ukraine's eastern front. They are getting closer to the city of Pokrovsk, a key logistics hub for the Ukrainian army. Now, the administration there said residents had 1 to 2 weeks to evacuate as Russian forces closed in. And currently about 53,000 people remain there, including 4,000 children. Megumi Lim in Kyiv reporting for DD India.
The United States envoy for Sudan said on Monday that peace talks were in progress in Switzerland days after the announcement of the reopening of the country's Adre crossing with Chad. Sudan's Sovereign Council said late last week that it would allow the use of the Adre border crossing with Chad for 3 months, a move long awaited by aid agencies seeking to send aid into areas of the Darfur region that are threatened with famine. The US-led talks, which the paramilitary RSF is attending, aim to end the devastating war that broke out in April last year and address the crippling humanitarian crisis that has left half of Sudan's population facing food insecurity.
First of all, I think the most important thing is that this model is working. We are actively moving forward in conversation with the Army and with the Rapid Support Forces every day, in fact, every hour, both as a team and as individual delegations. And we've been really pleased at the responsiveness to that. So while there are some continued issues of communication that we will continue to work on, the reality is that we are getting it done now because that's what the Sudanese people want.
The Democratic Republic of Congo hopes to receive its first doses of Mpox vaccine by next week, following promises from the US and Japan to help it fight its outbreak. The Congolese health minister said on Monday. The World Health Organization last week declared Mpox a global public health emergency for the second time in 2 years as a new variant of the disease spreads rapidly in Africa. Congolese health minister Samuel Roger Kamba Mulamba on Monday said that Japan and the United States had pledged vaccines to Congo. Their arrival would help to address a huge inequity that has left African countries with no access to the 2 shots used in a 2022 global Mpox outbreak, while the vaccines were purely and widely available in Europe and the United States.
De tout cœur que la semaine prochaine, on va voir arriver déjà les vaccins.
I sincerely hope that the vaccines will arrive next week, so I can give you a rough idea of the timing. I hope that the vaccines will arrive next week. You know, it's really a whole logistic chain from our acceptance first and then a few administrative procedures before shipment. But our strategic vaccination response plan is already ready. We are just waiting for the vaccines to arrive. We in fact written to Gavi asking them to make vaccines available to us, and we have agreed to this.
Nous attendons juste que les vaccins arrivent.
You're watching DD Indian News Hour. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, CRPF inspector martyred in an encounter between terrorists and security forces in Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir. Search operation underway in Dudu area of Udhampur. General Upendra Dwivedi chairs a high-level meeting to deliberate on transformation of Indian Army to align the initiatives of Indian Army to the national vision of Viksit Bharat at 2047. The annual pilgrimage of Mahadhyaneshwar Yatra, also known as Chota Amarnath Yatra, has begun in North India's Jammu and Kashmir's Bandipora district. Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Malaysian Prime Minister Dato Seri Anwar bin Ibrahim arrives in India on a 3-day visit to hold bilateral discussions with Prime Minister Narendra Modi today. India and Japan to hold third 2+2 dialogue on New Delhi on Tuesday. Japanese Foreign and Defence Ministers call on Prime Minister Narendra Modi ahead of the ministerial meeting. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Israel has accepted Gaza ceasefire bridging proposal, urges Hamas to do the same. The Democratic National Convention kicks off in Chicago. Party to formally nominate Kamala Harris as Democrat candidate for presidential polls. Day one, highlights will be Biden's bittersweet farewell speech. India's Minister of External Affairs announced that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be in Ukraine for an official visit on 23rd of August. The MEA termed the visit a landmark one.
Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will undertake an official visit to Ukraine later this week on Friday, 23rd August, at the invitation of President of Ukraine, His Excellency Volodymyr Zelensky. This also is a landmark and historic visit, since this will be the first time that an Indian Prime Minister will be visiting Ukraine in more than 30 years since the diplomatic relations were established between our countries. This landmark visit, of course, takes place against the backdrop of the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, which will also form part of discussions. As you are aware, India has consistently advocated for diplomacy and dialogue to reach a negotiated settlement.
Further in the press briefing, India's Minister of External Affairs said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will visit Poland on 21st and 22nd of August on the invitation of Prime Minister Donald Tusk.
Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi will be undertaking an official visit to Poland this week on 21st and 22nd August at the invitation of Prime Minister His Excellency Donald Tusk. This is a landmark visit as Prime Minister of India is visiting Poland after 45 years. The visit takes place as we also mark the 70th anniversary of the establishment of our diplomatic relations between India and Poland.
ME also said that Prime Minister will be accorded a ceremonial welcome and will hold bilateral talks with his Polish counterpart.
Prime Minister Modi will be accorded a ceremonial welcome in addition to the talks with Prime Minister Donald Tusk. Prime Minister Modi will also call on President Andrzej Duda. Prime Minister Modi will also interact with members of the Indian community, select Polish business leaders and prominent Indologists. He will also visit memorials that commemorate the very special episodes of Jamnagar and Kolhapur in our shared history.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi would be on a two-day visit to Poland. One of the unique bonds between our countries relates to the time in the 1940s during World War II, when more than 6,000 Polish women and children found refuge in two princely states in India, Jamnagar and Kolhapur. DD India correspondent Vishal Barrister caught up with the staff and students of the Bednarsk School in Warsaw. The school was set up by the princely state of Jamnagar. Take a look.
I'm here at the Jamnagar Memorial in Warsaw. Prime Minister would be addressing public here, but it has got an interesting history. The Maharaja of Jamnagar, he arranged for the refuge of around 1,000 Polish children. And I have with me Maria, whose grandfather was the part of that refugee camp. Let's talk to her and find out. Maria, what memories do you have from your grandparents?
Well, the Maharaja has been a figure in my life since I was born. My grandfather always told me stories about how great his childhood was thanks to him. He got to miss out on the awful reality of war and instead has spent his childhood in a paradise built by the Maharaja.
What does this say?
Bednarska, it's the original street where the school was located during the first years of its existence. And we just printed this t-shirt, we call it a gala t-shirt, to commemorate one of the anniversaries. And we simply wanted to express with the t-shirt not only the connection with the school, but also with the story of the Polish camp over there in Balachady.
Okay. Well, let's talk to the director. How many students do you have and up to which standard and what do you teach?
Actually, I'm teaching business management in the whole entire setup of the school, and there are 8 institutions since 1989, and we have around 2,000 students.
And here it is, this is witness to the greatness of the Maharaja and how he helped the Polish people in 1946, and in his memory they have erected this monument. With cameraman Sanjeev in Warsaw, this is Vishal Barrister for DD India.
Protests across India continued unabated even after Supreme Court's intervention in the rape and murder case of a medical student in West Bengal. In Kolkata, lawyers joined doctors in protest while the CBI received court approval to conduct a polygraph test on the prime suspect. The unrest has intensified pressure on Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee's government, and the Supreme Court will hear the matter on Tuesday.
Protests continue across India, showing no signs of abating, even after the Supreme Court intervened to address the case involving the rape and murder of a medical student in India's West Bengal. Lawyers took to the streets in Kolkata on Monday in solidarity with the protesting doctors. The Central Bureau of Investigation, CBI, is probing the RG Kar Medical College and Hospital rape-murder case. CBI received court's approval on Monday to conduct a polygraph test on Sanjay Roy, the prime suspect. The large-scale protests have put significant pressure on the state government led by Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, who is responsible for ensuring the safety of women in the state. Meanwhile, the counsel for the victim's family has made an explosive revelation, alleging that the Chief Minister has been handling such cases through financial means.
The role of the Chief Minister in the state of West Bengal is very condemnable role. Wherever there is a rape, she wants to immediately get into the contact of the victim family, pay them money and then say that everything is over. Unfortunately, she has fixed up rate card for the rape victims. Her attempt is to purchase the witnesses.
The opposition has criticized the state government.
Mamata Banerjee has become Mamata the destroyer. By her misdeeds, she has destroyed the dignity of a woman, a doctor who was serving the society. She is the destroyer of the rule of law. She is the destroyer of evidence in this heinous crime.
Days after the Calcutta High Court, expressing displeasure over the handling of the case, transferred the investigation to the CBI, the Supreme Court has taken suo motu cognizance of the August 9th incident. A three-judge bench, presided over by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, will hear the matter on Tuesday. Bureau Report, DD India.
Up next, we take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. A CRPF inspector who was injured during an encounter between terrorists and security forces in Udhampur in Jammu and Kashmir on Monday succumbed to his injuries. The deceased inspector has been identified as Kuldeep Singh, who lost his life in the operation. General Upendra Dwivedi chaired a high-level meeting of all army commanders and senior hierarchy of Indian Army to deliberate upon a wide range of issues with emphasis on charting to align with Government of India's vision, Viksit Bharat at 2047. Discussions were held on the roadmap for the next 2 decades, including the transformation of the Indian Army to align with initiatives of Indian Army to the national vision of Viksit Bharat at 2047. The annual pilgrimage of Mahadhyaneshwar Yatra, also known as Chote Amarnath Yatra, has begun in North Jammu and Kashmir's Bandipora district. The sacred journey is one of the significant religious events in the region, drawing devotees from across Jammu and Kashmir and beyond. The pilgrimage involves a trek to the revered Mahadhyaneshwar temple, nestled in the picturesque mountains of Bandipora. This year, the yatra is expected to witness a significant turnout, with devotees eager to participate in the sacred rituals. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break. But after the break, all the 3 major U.S. stock indices closed higher as investors focus on Democratic National Convention and the upcoming Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. Aryna Sabalenka wins the Cincinnati Open title, the 15th title of her career, by overpowering Jessica Pegula in the final.
स्वागत आहे टू मैग्नेटिक महाराष्ट्र. Share in the richness of Maharashtra as one family, united by the collective vision of building a better tomorrow.
Well, Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's get you updates from the world of business now. US stocks closed firmer on Monday, building on their largest weekly percentage gain of the year as investors focused on Democratic National Convention and the upcoming Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. All the three major US stocks indices closed higher, with the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ extending their winning streak to 8 consecutive sessions as equities continue to rebound from a steep sell-off 2 weeks ago, driven by recession fears. The S&P 500 gained 0.97%, while the NASDAQ Composite gained 1.39%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.58%. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chaired a meeting in New Delhi on Monday. The meeting reviewed the performance of public sector banks on their financial parameters, deposit mobilization, digital payments and cyber security framework, in addition to accessing of credit under financial inclusion and other emerging issues related to PSPs. You're watching DD India News Hour. We'll turn focus to sports now. Aryna Sabalenka has won the Cincinnati Open title by overpowering Jessica Pegula in the final. Now, this is Sabalenka's first title win since January's Australian Open and 15th title of her career. The result ended a 9-match winning streak of Pegula, who defended her Canadian Open title last week. The match went on for 76 minutes as the Belarusian powered past the American 6-3, 7-5 to take the title home.